I was in dire need of housing. I was previously homeless.
I felt like it was a cloud over my head. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to practice in the field that I felt so passionately about.
LAC steps in and fights for those who are up against a system that is intended and built to crush them.
I came in contact with the Legal Action Center in regards to a housing issue where I was discriminated against based on a background check. The Legal Action Center assisted not only in clearing that up, but several personal issues that were attached to the discrimination they cleaned up.
I was arrested over 16 years ago. My license being granted to me was in jeopardy because of that reason. Reaching out to LAC basically informed me on what my rights were, what the process would be, and what I needed to make sure that I was successful in my goal of getting my nursing license.
For 50 years, the Legal Action Center has fought against discrimination and for opportunity.
Arthur Lyman at the time had just completed his work with the Attica Commission. He agreed very quickly to become chair.
My father believed strongly that we as a society would be judged by how we treated our most disenfranchised. The Legal Action Center will be there to defend that group and make sure that we treat everybody with dignity.
In 1973, New York State passed the Rockefeller drug laws, which were the worst laws in the country. So we brought a lawsuit. The name of the case was Carmona v. Ward. We won in the district court in a great opinion by civil rights heroine and legend Constance Baker Motley. Unfortunately, Judge Motley's decision was overturned and the Supreme Court refused to take the case. When that happened, another great civil rights hero, Justice Thurgood Marshall, wrote a blistering dissent criticizing the refusal of the Supreme Court to hear our case. We still had another 20 to 25 years of advocacy ahead of us to eliminate the remaining worst provisions of the Rockefeller drug laws, but we learned a valuable lesson from Carmona v. Ward. You might lose the case, but you can still win the cause if you keep on fighting, and that has been our motto ever since.
What the Beazer case was about was contesting an employment policy maintained by the New York City Transit Authority that forbade the employment of any person who they knew had a drug history. And we brought a class action in federal court. And looking back on it, we were pretty bold.
In the end, this judge ended up ruling really quite enthusiastically for us. What it accomplished for the field as well as for Legal Action Center in establishing our place in the world was quite extraordinary.
The idea of the ATI Reentry Coalition is really grounded in that we rise together and fall together. Legal Action Center has played a really centralized role and continues to this day in terms of coordinating us, ensuring that at a local level, at a state level, that there are investments in the solutions that are going to work to really close and reduce the footprint of mass incarceration in society.
We were one of the first legal services organizations to be providing legal assistance to people with HIV. People at that time were losing jobs, losing apartments, and losing families. Legal Action Center's lawyers led much of the advocacy that resulted in the passage of New York State's HIV confidentiality law, which was the first of its kind and one of the best, if not the best, in the country.
We had a whole clean syringe advocacy project. We worked with advocates in the harm reduction community to make sure that public health law took precedence over the penal law imperatives. Those kind of policy changes were what impacted the HIV prevalence rate in injection drug users.
In the early 1990s, when Congress began debating the Americans with Disabilities Act, there were some people in the Congress who did not want to include addiction as one of the covered disabilities. Legal Action Center led the advocacy in Congress to ensure that substance use disorders were considered to be a disability under the ADA, and in fact, that's what happened.
Addiction has only very recently been considered an illness or a medical condition. It's always considered bad behavior, best dealt with through legal and criminal justice sanctions. With the Affordable Care Act, that all changed. We found a way to put our foot into the door, and Legal Action Center assured that that door was not going to get closed.
In recent years, we've also focused a lot on the right of people with opioid use disorder to receive medication when they're involved with the criminal justice system and the child welfare system, and not to be kind of shoved aside and have their medications denied them by people who don't really understand the nature of addiction.
The justice system was not developed to be a healthcare provider, and yet that's where we are today. No Health, No Justice really centers the discussion about how we got here, which is racism, and we can learn and not make the same mistakes that we made in the past.
It started out as a working group to really amplify the services in New York City that are available for people who are members of the LGBTQI and gender nonconforming community, and the kind of transitional services that they need.
Only 11% of Medicare beneficiaries receive substance use disorder treatment. This is an ongoing crisis, and LAC is at the forefront of fixing it.
Most people leaving jails and prisons have significant unaddressed health needs, including mental health and substance use disorders. At LAC, we know that to build true health equity and ensure successful reentry, people must be connected to high-quality community health care and supports before they leave jail or prison. That's why, over a decade ago, LAC first conceived of a strategy called Medicaid Reentry.
To me, it's incredibly gratifying to come back today and have this be Legal Action's 50th anniversary, because it's expanding the kind of wonderful work it's doing.
So I think my father, on this 50th anniversary would be incredibly proud of how much Legal Action Center has grown, how much it's accomplished.
Legal Action Center's staff is the most compassionate, most dedicated, most formidable staff of any organization I've ever been associated with.
I think all of us at Legal Action Center are constantly in awe of our clients, of people who are working so hard to do the best that they can to make the best of their lives.
I can tell that LAC is very passionate about the work they do. They're all about helping people and getting reintegrated into society.
If you're in any crisis dealing with something that's going to impact your life, they're there not only to support you, but to assist you along your journey.
And it's really an honor and a privilege for all of us at Legal Action Center to do whatever we can to help them.